Welcome to Unit 10 on Futures Tools to Guide Political Risk Analysis. Our agenda for Unit 9 is as follows. What have you not thought about? Aspirational futures and steps in developing scenarios and vision. What have you not thought about? We may try to look at the future based on what we can observe and identify, but what are the hidden developments that may take us by surprise? These can be both present risks to be dealt with or potential opportunities with a high value return. This is where the field of futures comes in. There are a number of courses that focuses on futures. Here we are just touching on the key areas to highlight its value. Scenarios provide organizations the ability to identify opportunities and challenges that more conventional techniques that focus on past and current trends often omit. Depending on the scenario technique employed, scenarios development first requires an environmental scan to craft a series of provocative forecasts, which are then developed into scenarios. Scenarios are used extensively across many public and private sector organizations. Royal Dutch Shell scenario planning of the early 1970s is often cited as one of the earlier and prominent successes where the oil giant was able to better anticipate and mitigate the consequences of the turbulent oil prices. Many government agencies, such as the US Transport Security Administration and the US Army, have engaged future organizations to develop scenarios to better understand the threats and opportunities that are likely to emerge in the external environment. This trend is even more pronounced outside the US. For example, in 1995 the United Kingdom established a UK Foresight Programme, which identifies potential risks and opportunities across science and technology areas to inform decision-making within and across government departments. Similarly, since the 1980s, the Singaporean government has engaged in forecasting activities that postulate future geopolitical, economic and social trends that include the Risk Assessment and Horizon Scanning, or HSS, program that is part of Singapore's National Coordination Secretariat. RAHS explores methods and tools that complement scenario planning in anticipating strategic issues with significant possible impact on Singapore. Singapore's approach is based on the view that by identifying the key drivers that may shape long-term change, one can start preparing for the future today. A number of consulting groups have emerged providing futures tools employing a variety of techniques. For some approaches, the drivers and scenarios tend to centre more on the expectable future or zone of desperation, further omitting the higher value opportunities that individuals and their organisations can identify. Ideally, scenarios should therefore explore paths that include visionary outcomes that an individual or organisation would like to achieve. Here I want to provide an overview of the aspirational futures approach developed by the Institute of Alternative Futures. Looking out 15, 20 or 30 years into the future, aspirational futures captures the high achievable aspirational goals and aids an organisation to achieve their vision. You may ask, why look so far out? The answer is a question to you. How often do you find some actual events in the world to take you by surprise and accelerate in the environment more than expected? For example, the Arab Spring. Therefore, we look at, say, 10 years, you can better see what may occur in the next 5 years. Importantly, we are not looking to predict the future, but better anticipate key developments. Scenarios through the aspirational approach are developed along three hypothetical yet credible views of the future, designed to stimulate discussion on what organisations should do and how. Three paths of the future are likely, challenging and visionary. Scenarios are different stories describing how the future may unfold and help bound uncertainty into a limited number of paths. These paths help organisations to consider creative probabilities in the larger space of probabilities, possibilities, rather than developing plans based only on the past and present. Starting in the centre, the likely scenarios examine the expectable future based on past and current trends. This is sometimes called the official future. What we do find as futurists is that the expectable future is also the least likely to occur. The challenging scenario sets as a zone of growing desperation to examine what could go wrong. Nestled in a zone of desperation, the challenging scenario should not create such a dire environment that an organisation cannot act, but to assess how they might prepare and respond to adverse events. The visionary scenario is in the zone of aspiration, which develops a compelling and credible narrative on what the real opportunities and rewards may be. Visionary explores a future where critical mass of stakeholders successfully pursue visionary strategies. All three must be credible narratives, and the visionary scenario to push the boundaries. Developing scenarios entails three broad steps. First, drivers and scope. One needs to identify 6 drivers impacting your area of focus. Usually this is done in a scoping meeting with the client. Next, establish how many years out scenario should look out to, 10, 15, 20 or 30 years. Second, conduct an environmental scan to identify those changes that are less evident today but likely to grow more important in the years ahead for each driver through a literature search. This will require in-depth research across the social, technological, environmental, economic, and political and values, STEEP V for short, of your chosen area. Third is development of preliminary forecasts. Typically these are 1 to 2 page preliminary forecasts for the 6 drivers identified for each of the 3 future zones. Aspiration is done twice to look at 2 different aspirational futures, with one could be technology based and the other political, for example. Then, you select experts to interview covering a range of fields relevant to the future of the topic you are looking at, say cybersecurity. Fifth, conduct supplementary research and incorporate interview feedback. Lastly is to integrate the 6 forecasts of each future zone into one scenario zone. So each scenario is actually incorporating 6 forecasts, one for each driver. The process can typically take 4 to 6 months. Now I want to say a few words about vision. Vision for an organisation provides a valuable frame of reference when identifying what future strategy they may wish to pursue to help create their preferred future. Context and a strong anchor are imperative for an organisation to make high quality and aligned decisions. Vision is a North Star for decision makers and crystallises the purpose of an organisation. A clear and compelling vision requires a strong emotive bond with the organisation to define its ideas, aspirations and soul. A vision needs to be a strong emotive bond with the organisation that defines its ideas, aspirations and soul. There are 5 components. Legitimacy. A vision must contain emotional power and be inwardly accepted, but not forced on people. Alignment and sharing. A vision must be shared and viewed as a collective challenge, aligning individuals and departments across an organisation. Aspirational. A vision must be compelling to engage people to reach their highest aspirations for making a difference. Contain audacious goals. A vision must give people the sense they can surpass what they thought were personal limits. Achievable. A vision must make individuals believe their compelling vision can happen and ultimately be possible no matter what. That wraps up the Political Risk Model Unit, or should I say, the Futures Unit. Thank you for your time.